Hello. Thanks for joining um, my office hours. Um, Still getting used to this. This is my second time doing this. I think I screwed it up the first time. Didn't connect everything in Facebook to get it to go live there because I use a different platform um, to record the videos. It's the same thing I use for my podcast. It's called Riverside, and allows me to broadcast live to Facebook and YouTube. And if I wanted to add anything else, I could. Um, but I've set this up mostly as a way to provide office hours for people in the community to hop on live, ask me questions in real time, um, and allow me to kind of interact at scale with the community um, each week. I couldn't do it last week. I had a death in the family and had to go back to Indiana for that. But yeah, hope to do this every week whenever possible. There will be another the week of the 19th of June, so June 20th. Will not be having office hours that day. We'll be on vacation, which is also why I'm having my campaign kickoff event this week at Trailbreaker here in Liberty Lake. So if you can make it, would love to see you there. Would love to meet you in person before I and everyone else in Liberty Lake leaves on vacation and kind of tunes out for a little while after school is out in the next week or so. Um, a couple of things I'd like to cover is I will be at the city council meeting tonight. So if you're going to be there, would love to meet you there. So I'll be there tonight. And if I don't have any questions, I see I have a couple of viewers. Go ahead and ask any questions in the comments that you'd like me to answer during this call. This is for you, the viewer in the community. We want to be able to uh, have open dialogue with you each week. Um, but in lieu of any questions, what I also will do during this time is just provide a little bit more background on me, where I'm coming from, my viewpoints on things, why I'm running, um, my thoughts on various issues. After tonight's city council meeting, I'll have more insight and opinions, I guess, on where I stand on some of the more recent things. Um, but I think I'm coming into this whole thing because I'm unhappy with the direction things are going in our country as a whole, and I think that there's been some strategies to try to infiltrate um, some ideology at the local level, school boards, city councils. I feel like that's happening here and across the country, and I don't like it. I think it's very divisive. I think we've got extremes of both parties, really, who get all the attention, get all the press, and I don't really think they represent the majority of Americans. I think we're all a little bit more closer to the middle on a lot of things than the media and the uh, the people getting the attention would make it seem. I am in the middle at a lot of things. I think compromise is not a four-letter word, obviously, but it's not a bad thing. Compromise is how things get done, or else you're just in gridlock. And I think we are in such gridlock as a country. We are so divided when it's unnecessary that we're not getting anything done. We're not moving forward as a country. We're worrying about petty things, culture wars, things that there's bigger fish to fry, bigger issues we need to tackle than if someone wants to call themself a girl or a guy. I mean, or if someone wants to read a book and educate themselves and get a different point of view. Um, I mean, it's just we're losing focus on what's really important. Um, and we're starting to look at each other as the enemy, which is complete bullshit. We're all Americans. We're all on the same team. We're not enemies. Um, but I mean, that's what makes the media money. That's what they want. That's what they're trying to promote because it gets viewers, it gets people in their little, gets them agitated and fired up. And divisiveness is how they make their money. And now it's how politicians are getting elected. And so when I decided to run, I thought I could just sit on the sidelines, complain, do nothing, or I can get off the sidelines and actually do something about it. And that's what I decided to do. So I'm just your ordinary Liberty Lake citizen with kids, a house. We like to go to the parks, all of them. We're regularly at Rocky Hill. That's where we go the most. We go to Orchard Park. We go to Pavilion Park, where we do a lot of activities at the library with small kids. That's a great place to be. And I've got a question about what's my favorite thing about Liberty Lake. I mean, I think the community. I think it's very tight knit. I feel like it's very safe. And although there's been some things that have happened recently that can kind of shake your confidence in that, an assault recently up near Zephyr Road, that's a little concerning. But I mean, my favorite thing about Liberty Lake is the community, the access to being outdoors a lot, the trails, the pace. I love that it feels a little slower. No one's really in a hurry. People are laid back. They're friendly. When we first moved here from Seattle, I grew up in the Midwest where everybody knew everybody. It was a small town. You waved to people. It was a farming community. That's just what I was used to. And then I moved to these cities like Denver and Seattle, Los Angeles, and it was weird that you didn't even talk to your neighbor. But that wasn't the case here. When my wife and I drove over from Seattle to look at houses, people waved. They didn't know who we were, and they were waving. We'd go to the grocery store to pick up beer, and people were having conversations with us. In Seattle, it never happened. I mean, if you try to talk to somebody, they look like you spoke a different language or had three eyes. And so that's, when we experience those things, my wife is from a small farming community in South Dakota. It just felt like that's how we grew up, just knowing people in a community where people wanted to talk to you. They wanted to get to know you. They said hi. I mean, there's people in my neighborhood, wave to them all the time. I really still don't know their names, but we just pass each other in cars and golf carts and we wave. It's like we've known each other forever. But maybe I need to change that, find out where they live. But that's just what I love about Liberty Lake is just the community, the fact that we go to the parks like I had mentioned, and we have conversations with people. We talk to people. I think it's a city of transplants. There's a lot of people here that didn't grow up here, whether they grew up in like Spokane Valley or Seattle or somewhere else. We all are here now, and we're all part of this community, and we're all hoping to row in the same direction. And that's what I hope to bring to the city council is that cohesiveness and that kind of connection to the community that I think has been lost because of personal agendas, political agendas. Um, the library thing, I'm going to keep coming back to that, but that's really what got me off the sidelines. That to me was an egregious government overreach of our freedoms. Um, and I really was not happy about that. And apparently, a lot of people in the community were not happy about that. The public comments were many in opposition, but yet 4 council members decided to ignore the sentiment of the community in favor of their own personal beliefs and agendas. And that is just not how a, a, a city government, any government, is supposed to run in our democracy. It's by the people, for the people, not by the council, for the council. And I feel like that's where it's gotten off track. And that's where I hope to get it back onto the tracks, moving in the right direction for the people who elect me there. The way I approach issues is I don't pretend to have all of the answers. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff to process. And so I process it thoughtfully, look at all of the angles, um, and talk with people and make a decision. And that's just how I operate. Another question about my education, my background. So, my education, I have a master's degree, but I wasn't the best student in high school. And I kind of use that as a chip on my shoulder because I think a lot of people wrote me off. I think a lot of people didn't believe in me for whatever reason. And I wanted to prove them wrong. I graduated undergrad from Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. I did not get in the first time I applied from directly out of high school. And that really kind of added another chip on my shoulder. I don't like to be told that I'm not capable of doing something. I don't like to be doubted. And that's just how I operate, how I've always operated, whether it was as an athlete or a student or in my career. I feel like I've been the underdog a lot in my life, and education was one prime example of that. And so I did not get into Indiana University directly out of high school, but I was determined to graduate from Indiana University. And so I started at Ball State, and then I eventually transferred. Got my grades up, had good grades, transferred, then proved that I could be a worthy student or whatever they wanted to see as they took my money. And ended up graduating from Indiana University with a degree in public affairs and environmental science. From there, ended up going on to school again about 4 years later, and got an MBA with really a focus in marketing. I think as I was getting my MBA, I took a business law class, and then later talked with someone on a plane one time who was in environmental law. And I think that for me has always felt like the missed opportunity. I feel like I really enjoyed business law. And the more I learned about environmental law, the more I think I missed my calling there. I guess it's never too late, but the thought of spending more money on education is not something I look forward to. But did get an MBA. It was mostly because I started off my career working in environmental science and an environmental science related field, working as a government contractor for the Department of Defense, helping to clean up a Superfund site, which was Rocky Flats in Colorado, located between Golden and Boulder. And it was a Department of Defense site where they manufactured plutonium triggers for use in nuclear weapons. During the Cold War, we were decreasing our stockpiles and didn't have a need to build as many nuclear weapons after a treaty with Russia. So I think that treaty is now out the window, thanks to Putin. But they decommissioned the site, and it needed to be cleaned up. And so I was part of the team that was cleaning that up, not directly, but I did NEPA compliance, and what that is it's a law that is established to make sure the government does what it's supposed to do from an environmental standpoint, that they're not cutting corners, that they're actually adhering to the laws that they've made. And so dealt a lot with air quality, water quality, ecology, a lot of different factors that could be impacted by different activities there. It was fun, but working for the government was frustratingly slow to get things done, slow to, ideas weren't something that were looked upon as a good thing. It's, stay in your lane, keep your head down, follow the rules and do what you're supposed to do. And even if it takes forever. And so at that point, it wasn't what it was cracked up to be. I didn't really want to work with the government anymore because of the inefficiency, the frustrations I had with that, of not getting things done the way I thought they could be done better. So that's why I went back and got an MBA. I started to get some business experience in sales roles. Those weren't really my thing. Went back to school, got an MBA with a focus in marketing. I love marketing. It's what I do now. But again, it wasn't an easy path to get here. I took an internship during grad school with a staffing agency to help them with a marketing plan. Next thing I know, I'm recruiting. And next thing I know, I'm down a career path of being a recruiter and not a marketer. And so after that happened, it was really hard to claw my way out and pivot into marketing. And, you go through interviews and people basically reject you and say you don't have enough experience, blah, blah, blah. And again, I wasn't going to let that impact my future, my outcome. Just as it has been my whole life, people telling me I can't do something, I do it. People doubt me, I prove them wrong. And so eventually just did side projects, got the experience, acted like I knew what I was doing, just, because there's never been a better time in the history of mankind than now to learn new things and develop new skills with things like YouTube and blogs and podcasts and everything it's never been easier to learn new things. And I took advantage of that. And this was in 2008, 2009. It's even better now. And so really dug in, immersed myself in that world while I was recruiting. So I eventually got to a point in 2013 and 14. I was working at Microsoft as a recruiter, recruiting software engineers for the Windows team. And I lost a lot. Windows isn't the sexiest division at Microsoft to work for when you had Xbox and other things that people really wanted to be a part of, cloud, Azure. But got to the point where I was working a pretty stressful job every day, all day, coming home and working on marketing projects in the evenings and weekends. And I was having zero time. And so a decision had to be made. Something had to give. I couldn't just keep working that much. And so I decided to go and take a chance and do my own thing, which ended up leading to going in-house with a longtime client, one of my first clients when I started doing side gigs, and had built a relationship with them, had done great work for them. I wanted to get some management experience, and I approached the president of the company and proposed that I join them as a director of marketing and lead their marketing team that really didn't have much leadership at the time. And he loved the idea, hired me, and I was the director of marketing for 6 years before I went back out on my own in 2021 after felt like I had done what I needed to do. I wasn't learning as much as I had been, and I love to learn. I would pick ability to grow professionally and learn in a role over money. Um, and I think that's probably how I'll always be. I just feel like if I'm not learning, if I'm not growing, I'm going backwards. Especially today, as fast as things move. So I'm very curious. Love to learn new things. Love to get my hands dirty in the work. And so now I own a marketing agency. It's really a one-person agency with me, but I do hire freelancers and contractors to help out when I need some specialized experience. Um, and I focus on demand generation and and marketing operations and revenue operations. And so so that is kind of what I'm doing now. It's fun. I love marketing. I love the psychology behind it. And this campaign is a lot different. It's than any other marketing I've done, and I'm really loving what I've learned so far and how I can turn around and apply that to the work that I do for other people. Um, I had a question about, speaking of learning, what book am I reading right now? Well, I a lot of times I'm reading about two or three at a time. And right now, I just finished on my flight to Indianapolis. I read Derek Sivers' book, Hell Yeah or No. That was a great book to help me think about some of the things that I haven't done in a while that I love, which is writing. I wrote a book in 2020. I love to write. I used to write every day. Got away from it when I went out on my own. I felt like I should be spending my time working on client projects instead of writing. And that's a mistake because it helped me think more clearly. And when I was on my flight from Minneapolis to Indianapolis, and I was talking with someone who I was sitting next to, we talked about a lot of things, but towards the end we started talking about writing, and he mentioned that he could see a spark. He could see a switch was flipped when I started talking about writing. And I just finished reading that book right before that flight, and so it really helped me clarify what I needed to start doing. And I think writing really helps me be more clear in my thinking. It helps me get my thoughts out of my head and onto something else so I can process them a lot more. And uh, and so that's one book I just read. I am also reading right now Remarkable Business Growth. Let me see who it's by. So I'm reading Remarkable Business Growth by Richard Malwer. Trying to get any insight I can on how to grow my business to seven figures. Eventually, that's my goal in the next couple of years. I also, on the flight, read a book. It's a quick read. It looks bigger than it is, but it's called Excellent Advice for Living by Kevin Kelly. I'm a huge fan of Kevin Kelly, and just a lot of good stuff. At the time of my life of last week, with what happened to my cousin passing away at 52, really driving home what you hear all the time, that life is short. It really is. And really needed to get some perspective on life. And that book was great for that. There's a lot of good stuff. I just opened it up to the first thing I saw highlighted, and he says, "Don't ever work for someone you don't want to become." And I think we've all worked for someone that we've not liked, and if you do it for too long, you might eventually become them. Especially if like that's where you learn leadership. If that's your only example of what leadership is, and you thought it was terrible, chances are you'll probably repeat it. So, and I'm also reading right now "Lead from the Outside" by Stacey Abrams, just about different perspective on leadership. And so, uh, so yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. And I'm always reading something. I'm also listening to a book on Audible. I'm always out for a walk every morning, usually between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., sometimes with one or more of my kids. And we walk over by Liberty Creek Elementary, near Pavilion Park, and around back toward Meadowwood. So I'm listening to a book called "Do the Work" by Stephen Pressfield, which is then further motivating me to write again. So yeah, for those of you that showed up, thank you for coming, and hope to see you here again next week, and then we take a break on the 20th and come back on the 27th, and hope to do it every Tuesday, 4 o'clock from here on out. So gonna wrap it up a couple minutes early. If you have questions for next week's or future weeks, hit me up on Facebook Messenger, shoot me an email, travis@travislscott.com. Would love to hear your questions, your thoughts, your concerns, your opinions on where things are going. And I will respond here during these office hours. So hope to see you Friday at Trailbreaker. It starts at 5 p.m. and will last for a couple of hours, or until people go or it closes. So hope to see you there.